Well, we wanted to do a video this morning that may be a little bit overdue. As a former Zag, a much beloved former Zag, is absolutely balling out in the NBA this year. That is Demontis Sabonis. And what he's doing for the Indiana Pacers, he made the All-Star game last year. He is well on his way to a second straight All-Star appearance.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I would be pretty shocked if we didn't see Domantas Sabonis here in a second straight All-Star game. I mean, just what he's doing this year, man, has been absolutely incredible. I think his game against Charlotte the other night really kind of, if you weren't aware of him already, really put him on the map for the rest of the NBA fans out there. Domantas Sabonis ended with 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists against Charlotte on 9 of 10 shooting.
Is that good?
It's kind of good. You know, in fact, he's the fifth player in NBA history to record a 20-point triple-double on 90% shooting in a game, joining Jokic, Draymond Green, Wilt Chamberlain, who did it twice, and Bo Outlaw. So some very good company there.
Yeah. And if you take a look at who is in the NBA right now, you've got 5 current players in the NBA. All of them are high quality.
5 Gonzaga players.
5 Gonzaga players. You know, you look at Brandon Clark down in Memphis, Zach Collins out in Portland, who's obviously battled some injuries.
Sure.
Rui in Washington, who's had a rough year being able to stay on the court this year so far. Kelly Olynyk, who's had a great career, really carved a role out down in Miami. And then Sabonis up with the Pacers. And, you know, you take a look in terms of who's the best Zag in the NBA. I mean, right now, Sabonis is by far doing the most in the NBA.
Absolutely.
You know, Collins, it's been rough. He's had a lot of injury problems. We really hope he can get his career on track when he's
still young. Lots of time if you can stay healthy.
Super young. And when he's been on the floor, he's been very promising for Portland. Olynyk is a guy that he's only averaged 9 points per game. He's gotten a huge contract down in Miami, but in terms of like longevity and just being a solid role player, he's been that for Miami as well. And you look at, you know, Rui and Brandon Clark, Brandon down with Memphis and Jaw down there. I think Brandon's going to have a very long career in the NBA.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you a stat that really took me back is, you know, Demontis, he's averaging 20 points per game right now, 12 rebounds, 5 assists per game. And I kind of went through in terms of the history of all Zags in the NBA. Obviously, there's a guy by the name of John Stockton. Not sure if you've heard of him. Pretty good point guard.
I think I have. Yeah.
Out of Gonzaga. And so when we think about who has averaged the most points in NBA history for a Gonzaga player, we first go to John Stockton.
Yeah.
Not the case. With 55 games played, the leader in average points per game is Rui Hachimura with 13.5 points per game. And so,
I love it, man.
You know, Sabonis is balling out right now. This is a guy that, if he can continue to put up these stats, is going to have a hell of a career in the NBA. But it's very promising to see Rui, and we know that he has a very high ceiling as well.
Of course. Yeah, and you know, he this year, I think we expected a breakout year for Rui a little bit in Washington. I think, obviously, you bring in Westbrook, you have Beal. Outside of that, you knew there was going to be some shots to be had there. You know, and I think the Wizards as well, a lot of people knowing that Beal's probably not going to be there for too much longer. So, you know, Rui fits in really well on that team. But props to him, man. I mean, we were talking about that this morning in that list, and Rui was not my first guess at all. You know, so that was pretty surprising. But it just goes to show, man, the level of players that the Zags have started to put in the NBA. These are no longer, you know, 5-minute-a-game guys that are sneaking into teams, you know, through G League or whatever it may be. These are legitimate NBA players, you know, and legitimate NBA all-stars. And Domantas Sabonis, like you said, our video has been, you know, maybe a little bit late here. The love has been coming. I still think he's one of the most slept-on, underrated bigs in the league. I mean, you talk about it, you know, you talk about the best bigs in the NBA. Most people aren't bringing him up.
His name doesn't even come up.
Right?
No.
But you look at the stats, and they absolutely support the argument.
Yeah, and he's gotten better every single year in the league. This is now his 5th season in the NBA, which is crazy. You know, his rookie season, he averaged 5 points per game, 3 rebounds, you know, not many assists, just an assist a game. But he went up from 5 points a game to 12 in his sophomore season. 14 points per game, his 3rd season in the league.
Yeah.
18, and now he's averaging 20 points per game. And every single year he's gone up in rebounds from 3 to 7, 9, and now he's kind of averaging 12 rebounds per game the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Assist numbers have gone up as well every single year. I think what's happening is we're starting to realize and kind of find out, okay, starting to settle in on what type of player he is in the NBA.
Sure.
And that's a 20, 10, and 5 guy about. And that's crazy. I mean, if you actually go and look at players to average 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists per game in a single season, it's elite company. I mean, you're talking about Elgin Baylor, Oscar Robertson, Wilt Chamberlain, Billy Cunningham, Sidney Wicks back in the 70s, Kareem, Larry Bird, Sir Charles Barkley, Kevin Garnett, Chris Webber, and Russell Westbrook. That's it. That's the only guys who have ever averaged 20, 10, and 5 in a single season, and he's on pace to do that. Yeah. He started the season, the very first game of the year, with 32 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists. And so it's just, this isn't a breakout year. This is, I think, Demontis Sabonis really laying claim to, this is who I am in today's NBA, and he's still a young guy that has a lot of solid, productive years left.
Absolutely. And I mean, you talk about, if you're saying, this is who I am, it takes consistency to prove that point to people. And Sabonis started this year the 5th player with a double-double in each of his first 15 games since the NBA-ABA merger, joining Bill Walton, Antetokounmpo, Moses Malone, and Kevin Love. So again, he keeps finding himself in this elite company with everything he's doing this year. And, one of my favorite stats, he's averaging 5.8 assists a game, which is 21st in the league. There are 30 NBA teams, meaning there are 30 point guards.
Starting point guards
in the NBA. Yeah. And Sabonis is 21st. It just goes to show, man. I mean, Malcolm Brogdon said the other night, if you saw it on Twitter, he said that he thinks Sabonis and Jokic are the 2 best passing bigs in the NBA right now. And I think he's doing everything to back that up. But it's clear he's gained the respect of his peers. And I still feel, at this point, he really is just kind of scratching the surface. And how cool is it to see a Sabonis doing this at his age? Of course, his dad, one of the most prolific NBA players, who came over late in his career after multiple injuries. And, you talk to anybody who watched the NBA or was in the NBA back then, and they'll say right away, Arvydas was one of the best players, the best passing big. And they all said he would have been one of, if not the best player in the NBA pre-injuries. So, to kind of come from that and just not getting that full, chance at the league for him, to be able to see his son and Domantas just absolutely take over this year, you got to love it, man. It's really cool to see.
We're living in this era now where we're starting to see so many pro players, kids come through.
Yeah.
And with Sabonis, no one, I don't think, expected him to ever be as good as his dad was, because he was such a good player.
Of course.
Like you said, he played in Spain really during his prime, came over to the NBA late in his career, and was still considered one of the best players in the NBA. So I think it's pretty cool that for him to now definitely be in the conversation that he could have a better NBA career than his father did is insane, and a big testament to how hard he's worked. I love the assist stat that you threw out. Another one that we've talked about is he's now averaging essentially 2.5 3-point attempts per game, shooting 37% from deep. If he can continue to, let's just say he gets to the point that he's putting up 3-4 threes a game, and he can make 1 to 2 of those a game, that really changes who he is on the floor, the way that defenses can attack him. That's going to allow him to get to the rim a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
It's just curious to think, is this really the peak of Domantas Sabonis, or if he can add that little wrinkle to his game, is this a possible 25 point per game guy? I think that, the Pacers are a team that have added some talent that, he's going to be really the foundation of what they're trying to do for a long time. Yeah. And I think they've added some recent pieces that they're going to be able to compete very soon.
Definitely. I think the Pacers have made it clear that, their duo is Malcolm Brogdon and Demontis Sabonis. Obviously featured players that have done very well in this offense. And, as a Zags fan, I'm going to sit here and say, I love the fact that Sabonis got out of OKC and he got to Indiana. One, for his development. I mean, Indiana has been such a good situation for him. They've brought him along the right way. They've helped him develop his game. Also, I don't have to feel dirty about rooting for OKC under any circumstances. Bring back our Sonics. But back to Sabonis. I mean, you just love what he's doing, man. And like you said, he's shooting 37%. And it's the way, just the way Indiana uses their bigs. They put them in positions to succeed. I think we saw for a while they wanted Turner to be that guy, like at the rim all the time. And it wasn't working out. And now they found this great setup where they can allow Sabonis a little bit more room down low. Turner has greatly improved his three-point shooting and provides the weak side defense, leading the league in blocks. So it's such a great setup, and they're a young, talented team. You got Jeremy Lamb, who just came back off his ACL injury as well. It has been a great offensive boost to them as Karis LeVert recovers from his procedure. So, it's a great situation for Sabonis. I really do think he's got room to grow. He's just such a high IQ player, and he puts himself in positions to succeed, and he takes shots that he can make. And it sounds simple, but at the end of the day, a lot of guys cannot do that on a consistent basis. So this really is, it's interesting to see where's Sabonis going to end up, but I think he's definitely got room to grow still.
Well, maybe we should have seen this coming. If you have any questions of if this Gonzaga program can prepare you for the NBA, he spent 2 seasons in Spokane. His last season, he averaged 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 assists. Fewey, I don't know what you were doing. You got to get this guy involved in the passing game a little bit more. But anyways, and we actually looked back. It's hard to – Gonzaga's had so much success the last 5 years. It's hard to place these guys sometimes. Like, they were that year. Had he decided to come back, which of course he went to the NBA,
made a great choice.
He would have actually been on that national championship team. So you imagine adding him to Shemek, Zach Collins,
get the brooms.
Maybe a different outcome in that season. But anyways, what's crazy to me is that we have 5 players in the NBA right now that are Zags. There's several dudes who could be on rosters that aren't right now. We're talking, Jonathan Williams, Zach Norvell, Nigel Williams-Goss.
Yeah.
Different guys who have kind of
Perkins could end up there.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I think next year, we're for sure going to have at least 8 Zags in the NBA. We know Jalen Suggs will be gone. We know Corey Kispert would be gone. And then, between Joel Ayayi, Andrew Timme, and Philip Petrusev, who's playing really well over in Serbia right now, there's a chance we could see 8 to 10 Zags in the NBA next year. And it feels like we're not too far away from half the NBA teams having a former Bulldog on their roster.
Yeah, you got to love it as a Zags fan. It gives me a reason to watch NBA basketball. I still watch a ton of basketball. Who am I kidding? But I've refused to claim a team since we lost our Sonics. But being able to tune into these different teams and just being able to watch Zags. And, like I said, man, you're not watching a whole game waiting for the 6 minutes off the bench that you're going to get to see your Zag play. No, these are guys that you're getting to tune in games and see them be featured pieces on teams. And it is just incredible to watch. It's props to Gonzaga. It's props to Mark Few and his coaching staff. They've taken a lot of slander over the years, but what they do to actually develop guys is truly amazing. Brandon Clark was not an NBA prospect at San Jose State.
No.
Takes his redshirt year, and of course we heard about it during that year that he had to, they told him to ease up a little bit on Rui because he was just putting him through the grinder a little bit. But it just shows how much these guys want to compete, how much they all care to get better. And, props to the program for putting them in positions to better themselves and, set themselves up for a lifelong career in the league.
Clark maybe needs to come back to Spokane this summer and fix whoever did to his jump shot down in Memphis. He is a heck of a player down there, but whoever changed his jump shot from what...
It looked so good last year.
Oh, man. He was stroking it. He had a very awkward kind of side shot when he was at San Jose State. Yeah. Comes to Gonzaga, fixes his form, and Memphis must have hired San Jose State's shooting coach down there. So that's rough. But once a Zag, always a Zag. I will tell you that all of these guys, and Demontis Sabonis, Gonzaga land is very, very proud of what these guys are doing, and it is a treat. Spokane is a basketball town. They even call it Hooptown, USA. You've got Gonzaga. You've got the world's largest 3-on-3 basketball tournament. It is a basketball city through and through.
Yep.
And to be able to know that, hey, our Sonics might be coming back just across the mountains, know that you've got all these Zags who are doing work in the NBA. It's a very exciting time to live in the Great Pacific Northwest and to watch our former Zags completely ball out at the next level.